With the Landcruiser being canned here in America for the 2022 model year, Toyota now has a gap for a large SUV in its lineup. Well, maybe not for long because they just trademarked a new SUV. Today we'll discuss the Grand Highlander, what it could be, why Toyota needs it, where it will be built, and how this could affect the Lexus lineup as well. Welcome back, Luxurious Fleet. Anytime we get a new trademark, it's like a mini celebration. Make sure to smash that like button, put on your tinfoil hat, get out your salt shakers, and let's dive into where this comes from. This was first discovered by Apex over at gr86.org, over at their forums. Now, this trademark is not only for the US, but for Canada as well. So my Canucks, my freezing brethren to the north, you guys are likely to get this as well. And why do we need a bigger Highlander? Well, we'll get to the spreadsheet at the end where I'll break out all the numbers, but essentially it boils down to a couple things. One, you have an empty spot in the lineup because the Landcruiser is gone. You also have a lacking third row space, as well as lacking cargo space in the new Highlander. I'm always surprised when I see the new Highlander out on the streets how small it looks from behind. It's pretty sporty looking, pretty narrow, almost Lexus GX like, obviously not with the height, but with the narrowness to it. So it needs larger third row legroom, more passenger space, more cargo space, and the Grand Highlander would be a perfect addition to their lineup. Now, what does this mean for the Sequoia? Well, I don't think the Sequoia is going to go away. If we look at the sales of the Sequoia, they're not very promising. I mean, they've fallen from grace essentially when it came out with the first generation, and it's just plateaued at around, let's just say 13,000 units with a slow decline over the years. 2020 is going to be even worse, and it's not going to get better really until they come out with a new one, which is going to be produced in the San Antonio plant side by side with the upcoming TNJF platform Tundra. And I also theorize that the new 4Runner could be built there as well. Again, that's just a guess, but they're going to have capacity down there because the Tacoma has left that plant. So with the Sequoia leaving its current production plant, which is Indiana, by 2022, that could leave up some production capacity for something else. Now, if we go to my poll that I took last night when I first heard about this, Toyota just trademarked the Grand Highlander. What do you think it is? 42% of you thought it's an extended version of the current model, same wheelbase, it's a little bit more space inside. The least amount of you thought it's a whole new model with a longer wheelbase, but still on the TNGA-K platform. And then some of you think it's a body on frame model to replace the Sequoia. Well, it could be any of these things. Now, I'm going to go out on a limb here and trust one of my viewers. And John Paulson says he works there. I don't know if he does or not. I have no way to prove that. However, he says he works at the plant that will make it. In theory, that would be the Indiana plant because the new Highlander is produced there, the new Sienna is produced there. Why would you have a TNGA-K SUV sort of large cargo capacity vehicle produced anywhere else? So it would be in the Indiana plant if they produce it. And he says it's going to be an extended wheelbase version, more room for the third row. So when is the earliest we could see this Grand Highlander? Well, we would have to wait for the Sequoia to go down to Texas to produce alongside the upcoming TNJF platform Tundra. And that's going to be at the end of 2021. So early 2022 to mid 2022 would be the absolute earliest we see a Grand Highlander produced out of the Indiana plant alongside the normal Highlander and the Sienna. And it would be a 2023 model year at the earliest. And they could do it if they want to. They don't have to change a whole lot. The platform's there, the powertrains are there. And speaking of which, I think it's time to go over to the spreadsheet. It's spreadsheet time, guys. Get hyped, get hyped. All right, here we are. Original Highlander that's currently on the market right here. 3.5 liter V6. You still have a naturally aspirated V6 as an option, front wheel drive, all wheel drive, or you have a hybrid option with 243 horsepower. Don't really know the torque. Toyota has not produced the torque numbers for it, but it's very torquey. I would say every bit is torquey, if not more torquey than the V6. 35 miles per gallon in all-wheel drive, guys, and the 3,500 pounds is significantly less than the V6. Cargo capacity is not, it's okay. In the very rear, it's 16 cubic feet. And when you maximize the cargo capacity with all the seats folded down and everything, 84 cubic feet. Third row legroom is also not very good, 27. Let's just round up to 28. Wheelbase is 112. Now, if we look at the Grand Highlander, and I'm basing these numbers off of the Sienna really, because the Sienna is on the same platform, but it has a longer wheelbase, and we need that more legroom. The Sienna has almost 40 inches, I believe, of third row legroom. I'm going to be a little bit more conservative here and say this will have around 35, maybe more inches of third row legroom, which would be class leading, which would match the Sequoia, which is not in the same class, but I put it here for comparison, and it would beat the Ascent, it would beat the Pilot, and it would beat the Telluride. And cargo capacity, of course, is going to go up as well. This vehicle is very, very tempting for many, many owners. The current Highlander isn't big enough for a lot of people, so you have the Sienna as an option for a little bit more space savings or space availability, and then this Grand Highlander is there for people who don't like minivans, which for me, I'll take the sliding doors any day. That's my personal preference. Holy cow, what if it's hybrid only, guys? Because looking at this wheelbase, it's definitely longer than the 112, noticeably longer. And that would mean they would have to have a whole new drive shaft, length of drive shaft to be able to accommodate a longer wheelbase. I don't know if they would do that. Knowing Toyota, they'll just be like, okay, well, we're just going to take the body off the Sienna essentially and put this Grand Highlander on that same wheelbase. That's how I'm seeing it. I know it's not as simple as that, but that's my guess. As a result, it could be hybrid only. Again, we would have this is all conjecture. I said tinfoil hats and salt shakers at the beginning, but there's a possibility it could be hybrid only, which could potentially be disappointing when you're talking about the reduction in towing capacity. Again, we'll have to wait to see. Now, how does this affect Lexus? Because Lexus and Toyota are tied at the hip. You can't have one without the other. Lexus trademarked the TX before this Grand Highlander. And a lot of us were guessing that it would be a large 3-row SUV to compete against the QX60s, the new Acura MDX coming up, the Audi Q7s, etc. Lexus needs to have a vehicle like this. This is more important, guys. This vehicle, this Grand Highlander, in its stature, the third row legroom, the cargo capacity, this vehicle is actually far more important for Lexus than it is for Toyota. If you're going to make it, might as well have one of each. And if we scroll to the right here, definitely get a little bit more salt out here, but Texas TX stands for Texas, right? But it's going to be large like Texas, so Lexus TX could replace the GX essentially. Sadly, I think that's where my gut's telling me you don't need the GX anymore. You have the LX, and rest in peace body on frame outside of the LX in the Lexus lineup. Don't know exactly how this vehicle is going to be equipped in terms of powertrains. Could have a V6, of course. Could have a Turbo 4, of course. I don't know. Now, what about Turbo 4 hybrid? That's a possibility. I was speculating on that with the upcoming 4Runner as well as the Hilux, other vehicles in the Toyota Lexus lineup. But Turbo 4-cylinder hybrid, 320 horsepower, 400 pound-feet of torque. Again, I'm just taking a stab at some numbers here. 33 miles per gallon. However, what if they do a plug-in hybrid? They could do that with or without the turbos. If it was out the turbos, it would be 300 horsepower, 400 pound-feet of torque. This would be the Direct 4 powertrain that we saw just teased in the Lexus ES. It could definitely see its way permeate the entire Lexus lineup. I'd say this is almost a guaranteed. Toyota Grand Highlander makes a lot of sense for them. It also makes a lot of sense to have a Lexus version of it in the Lexus TX. And if the Grand Highlander is being produced in Indiana, does that mean the Lexus would be produced there as well? Absolutely not. I fully expect that Lexus TX to be produced alongside that Lexus RX up in Ontario, Canada, at the Cambridge plant there, alongside the upcoming Lexus NX as well. They're all going to be on the TNGA-K platform. And drumroll, guys, I'm getting excited. Things are heating up for Toyota and Lexus, and it's a big part of my channel. I talk about them. Make sure you're subscribed so you don't miss any of these developing stories, any of these developing powertrains, these developing trademarks, etc. I'll catch you guys in the comments. If you made it this far, thank you so much. Have a wonderful day. Take care of yourselves. Love the people around you, and peace out.